Hi, and welcome to another episode of Send It. I'm Alexis Belton, and this week we are breaking down the 2020 KPMG PGA Women's Championship with a very special guest. All right, this week I'm with a very special guest, a coach to many of the stars on tour, but for me, I have the opportunity to call him my coach as well. So I'm super honored to have Joe Hallett here today. Thanks so much for joining the show.
Alexis, honestly, you need to put yourself right in the superstars out there because every superstar has a unique quality that they do.
Sure. Hopefully one day we'll be asking a question about me winning. But this week we're breaking down the 2020 KPMG Championship, who was won by Sei Young Kim. And watching the girls play out there, I could see how tough the conditions were. Can you tell me a little bit? You were out there coaching some of your players out there. Can you tell me a little bit of how the course was set up and what Sei Young Kim did to really dominate the course?
Well, I mean, she was phenomenal in what happened, and she was actually playing behind us the first 2 days. And it was funny because towards the end of the round, you were like, well, she's the first one off the green again. She's the first one off the green again. She's the first, and you're like, has she been making birdies? They're like, yeah, she's going to birdie 5 of the last 6 holes. And, so if you looked out there, the recipes for succeeding up there at Aronimink, which is an incredible golf course. We'll talk about that in half a second. But some of the things it took was a hot putter, and clearly Sei Young had that. It takes patience. And that's why all of a sudden at the end of the week, you saw a name like NB Park show up way high on the leaderboard. And it took intelligence and some, I don't know whether you call it will or fortitude, but in specific, you can play Aronimink and you can hit all 14 fairways and you can hit all 18 greens, and your day has just started to get tough if that's what happens. The green structures are so cool out there. They're so large. And I can specifically remember on the second day chatting with Stacy and saying, you got your intelligence up here, use that and use your willpower and she got a big smile and looked at me and she goes, oh, Travis and I already looked at the whole locations. We only have 3 flags we can shoot at today, and 2 of them are on par 3. She goes, there's one par 3 we can't figure. We're going to physically have to put the ball 30 feet away from the pin to make sure it stays on the green and to give us an uphill putt. It's a little bit of planning, a little bit of a hot putter, and a little bit of patience. And you look at Sei Kim and you go, you know what the cool part was? She has that, but she also has that Laura Davies. Let's just go play golf and see what happens. And it was so cool to kind of watch that. So the course was set up absolutely fabulous. The fairways are very generous. Aronimink, which was a course that had a lot of large oaks and large trees, actually had some removed. And the course played easily as hard as it always has. The rough was very gracious. The grass wasn't super long, but you could get a club on the ball and you could get the ball out and advance it and not just have to wedge out of the rough. And the greens, they're huge. I mean, the 15th green, there are daycares that do not have as big a playground as the 15th green does out there. It's like 51 paces long. And, it doesn't mean anything to anybody until you're kind of like, well, the flag is on 45. And, if you hit it 5 on the front, you're like, well, that's a 40-yard putt. And I'm like, yeah, that's 120 feet. Tell me the last time
Wow.
Even joking around, if you're under pressure and you have to hit it 120 feet, you're like, I'm really out of practice on these. So that was kind of how the week parlayed. It was very fair, but very tough.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I feel like KPMG is doing a great job of where they're putting a lot of these tournaments. Next year y'all are going to, Atlantic Athletic Club and then Congressional.
Yep.
And so on and so forth. So I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of tournaments that are exactly like this, where we really get to see, players stand out and what skills they really have. You coach a lot of women that are in this field, and even from Symetra to college. What are some of the key traits that help good golfers become professionals and champions? Just like, you had Stacey Lewis win just after having a baby, her first time as a mother, winning this past year for the Scottish Open. So what key traits do you see in your players that are on tour?
Man, that's the magic recipe, Alexis. And by the way, those places that KPMG is playing, you need to mark your calendars because you're going to be playing there too. All right. So, and but I mean, getting the set of skills and what does it take to kind of get to be a champion, and what are the common traits that I see amongst them is, and it's been funny, and I hope this answers part of your question is, I know you work with a lot of ladies on the LPGA, but you don't work with very many men. And they said, well, what's the difference? And I said, the ladies actually have patience and they actually listen. And it's, us guys have kind of a big ego at times. That's like, yeah. I've had 5 guys tell me to change my grip. I'm not changing my grip. I'm going to be fine,
I
but
think I'm going to take that part that you said, that women, we listen, and I might make that a meme or something, because that was beautiful, beautifully said.
But, and there's an intelligence in the way. There's always this, I guess, would you call it kind of a preconceived notion? Oh, the ladies chip and putt so good because they work on it all the time. I got news for you. They spend so much time on the putting green. It's not even funny. And that it's, if you have 3 hours to practice, well, how do you break that down? Well, there's 5 minutes of hitting balls and 2 hours and 55 minutes on the putting green is basically what it is. I think in today's day and age, one of the things, and I don't think it's Bryson DeChambeau, and it's a gift that you have already come to the tee with, is distance. And I mean, that's one thing that sets players apart. There's no question. Distance off the tee is huge. I can go back 8 to 10 years ago and look at the top 10 money winners and also find 8 of those 10 in the top driving distance. The key for me is to see what somebody hits from 150 yards. If I see a player who's trying to, really trying to get to that next level and they're having to hit a 6-iron, and clearly maybe a 14-year-old has to based on size, but when you're talking about college, Symetra, or professional, and you're not in the, well, if it's downwind, I'll take an 8-iron, it's an easy 7. You've put yourself behind the 8 ball a little bit. So sometimes it's the distance that you hit your scoring irons, your wedges, your 9-iron, your 8-iron. What can you do from 150 in? Because that's really, really going to help. So honestly, physical conditioning, distance off the tee is a big plus if you can get it. And those two things go together. What clubs are you taking from 150 in? And how good is your putter? And this, you and I have chatted on this before, and I've shared this with a lot of players. Every professional I know practices, and they practice those 3-footers around the hole. Yes, those are important. If you can 2-putt outside of 30 feet on both the LPGA and the PGA Tour, 2 putts outside of 30 feet, you gain 0.97 strokes on the field. That's one shot you're going to gain on the field. And to me, I still have to scratch my head because I'm going, these players are the best in the world. Don't tell me if I 2-putt every time I do that, I'm going to get ahead of them. You're like, yeah, that's the truth. And if you can make one, you almost gain 2.5 strokes. So players are always aware of where they can pick up a stroke or where they can avoid giving back a stroke. And
I think one thing that was really interesting as well, I'll add this, was that she won a little over $500,000 for the purse. And on the PGA this year, everyone's been in a pandemic, but almost $2 million. And that pay disparity is absolutely, something that's incredible to see, saddening to see. But what are your thoughts about that?
Honestly, and as you know, within the realm of the LPGA and ladies golf, and specifically KPMG has been one who continues. They even upped their purse this year in the pandemic. And so as long as we keep making gains on the LPGA, I can tell you as a coach, that game that all of you are playing out there, the effort you're putting in, the results that you're getting, and the venues and the tests that you are putting yourself underneath are identical to what the guys on the PGA Tour are doing. And this is a full-time 60 to 80 hour a week job. And it's great to see companies like KPMG and see the LPGA putting in more tournaments, and there's going to be another drive-on challenge. Michael Wan's doing a tremendous job to allow these players out on the tour to keep working and keep having another chance to make another check. And as long as it keeps going the way it is, I got to have a little smile on my face. The disparity is huge. I do get that, but we're moving in the right direction.
Moving towards closing the gap. And KPMG did an excellent job, as always, for this tournament. I think one of my favorite things that they had was the Women's Leadership Conference, where this year you could attend online, had incredible speakers, as well with some of their players there, like Mariah Stackhouse. I think that is the future of women's golf as we continue to close the gap, but also continue to educate women and empower women, and continue to see these women on the LPGA just be an excellent role model for.
My members have commented over and over again, you know what, I actually enjoy watching the LPGA more than the PGA, and not necessarily because you teach some of those players. Their game is much more relevant to my game. They can hit the ball further than I can. How do they do that? Teach me how to do that. Teach me how this young lady can hit the ball further than me. You know, when you look and you go, well, Bryson DeChambeau can hit the ball further than me, but there's a reason. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to put those hours and put on that. But the game, the relevance of the LPGA player to go, they're hitting 8-iron from 150. I hit 8-iron from 150, but they hit a lot better than I do. What are they doing? That's the question that keeps coming up.
For sure. Awesome. Well, thanks so much again for coming on. It was very exciting to have you on. Hopefully you'll come back again. And make sure you all tune in next week for another episode of Send It.